A cold wind sliced through the narrow street outside Manhattan Family Court, but Avery Bennett barely felt it. She stood on the stone steps, fingers trembling around a thin folder. The only thing she carried out of a marriage that had drained her for 7 years. Her ex-husband, Logan Pierce, strutted out behind her like he had just won an award. Cameras loved him. Investors loved him. Even strangers loved the polished smile he wore like armor. "Look at her," Logan said loudly to his lawyer, ensuring the reporters nearby heard every word. "She's lucky I'm not asking the judge to make her prove she can remember to take her meds on time. Some people really shouldn't be parents." A ripple of quiet laughter passed through the crowd. Avery's throat tightened. He said it deliberately. He wanted the rumor about her mental instability to catch fire. He wanted her to lose her son, to lose her dignity, to lose everything. Sienna Clark, Logan's mistress, stepped closer, heels clicking. "Do you need help getting home, Avery?" she asked sweetly. "The subway can be confusing when you're overwhelmed." Avery stared at the ground. If she opened her mouth, she feared she would break. And breaking, in front of these people, would give Logan exactly what he wanted. Logan wasn't done. It's a shame, really. A woman who can't keep a job, can't keep her emotions in check, and can't keep her own husband well. Maybe the judge should have considered supervised visitation. He laughed, a sharp, metallic sound that stabbed straight through Avery's chest. That was when the black Mercedes Maybach glided to the curb. It didn't just arrive, it commanded attention. The hum of conversations faded. Even the reporters lowered their cameras. The rear door opened, but not by the driver. A tall man stepped out, dressed in a dark wool coat, an understated Rolex glinting in the gray light. His presence shifted the entire sidewalk. Calm, controlled, powerful in a way money alone couldn't explain. Avery blinked. Her breath caught. Ilias Ward, the billionaire no one expected. The man whose name could shut down boardrooms from Wall Street to Silicon Valley. And he was looking directly at her. "Avery," he said, voice steady, warm. "I'm sorry I'm late." Logan stared, confused. "You know her?" Elias didn't even glance at him. He stepped forward, offering Avery his hand, not as a gesture of pity, but of respect, of recognition, of something Logan had never given her. "Are you ready?" Elias asked softly. Avery nodded, though she didn't understand how Elias Ward of all people knew her name, let alone why he was here. Elias turned slightly, just enough for everyone on the sidewalk to hear his next words. "I told you I'd never let you face this alone." "John?" Logan's jaw dropped. Reporters froze. Sienna's smile evaporated. And Avery, shaking, heart racing, stepped toward the man who had just shattered Logan's certainty. Because something was happening. Something impossible. Something that would flip the entire power dynamic of her life. And Logan Pierce had no idea that this moment was the beginning of his downfall. Avery Bennett had never imagined her life would bring her back to Manhattan like this, standing beside a billionaire's Maybach, with the remnants of her dignity tucked into a battered file folder. Just hours earlier, she'd taken the subway to the courthouse, clutching a lukewarm Starbucks cup for courage. That alone showed how far she'd fallen. Not long ago, she had been a promising financial analyst in Midtown, working late nights with spreadsheets glowing on her old MacBook Air, fueled by ambition and the belief that hard work could rewrite her family's story. But life had a way of pulling people backward when they took their eyes off themselves for too long. Avery grew up in a small Texas town, raised by a father who worked 2 jobs and a mother who taught her to survive quietly. When she earned a scholarship to NYU, she came to the city with nothing but a worn backpack, faith, and stubborn hope. She worked at a diner at night, attended classes by day, and saved every dollar she could. She didn't mind the struggle. The struggle was proof she was moving forward. Then she met Logan Pierce. He was magnetic, polished, everything she thought she needed to become. Logan made her feel seen in a city that often swallowed people whole. Their relationship began with passionate promises, rooftop dinners she couldn't afford, and whispered reassurances that she deserved luxury, even if he was the one paying for it. He made her believe she was his equal. He made her believe he valued her mind. And then slowly, so slowly she didn't notice until it was too late, he dismantled her. When she became pregnant, she planned to return to work after maternity leave, but Logan insisted his career demanded all of his time, and someone had to be the stable parent. She tried to negotiate, compromise, show she could balance everything. But every time she tried to restart her career, Logan found new ways to make her doubt herself. "You're too anxious lately," he'd say. "You're not focused. You're scatterbrained. BW. Are you sure you can handle the pressure?" Eventually, Avery believed him. She stayed home with their son, Carter, trying to prove she was good enough. But Logan's expectations were endless. The more he rose in his career, the smaller she became. She didn't see herself fading, not until she looked in the mirror one morning and didn't recognize the exhausted eyes staring back. Her anxiety wasn't an illness, it was a symptom of the man she lived with. But Logan twisted every vulnerability into a weapon. When she finally gathered the courage to step away and seek help from a therapist, he used her appointments against her, painting her as unstable, unfit, emotional. It didn't matter that her therapist, Dr. Kira Dalton, had documented her progress and resilience. Logan only needed rumors, and he planted them everywhere. By the time Avery filed for divorce, she had lost her savings, her confidence, and her job. Her part-time bookkeeping gig let her go when Logan accidentally revealed she struggled with anxiety. Even her landlord hinted she should try to keep things stable, as if she were the problem. And yet, despite everything, despite the humiliation and the fear, Avery woke up every morning because of one reason: Carter. Her son was the anchor that kept her from drifting away completely. Every time she tucked him into bed, every time he hugged her with his small arms and whispered, "Mommy, I love you," she remembered that her life still had meaning. Her pain still had purpose. Her story wasn't finished. Standing next to Elias Ward now, feeling the weight of his unexpected presence, Avery realized something she hadn't allowed herself to believe in years. Maybe she wasn't alone. Maybe she wasn't as powerless as Logan wanted her to be. Maybe the world hadn't given up on her, she had simply forgotten her own worth. And for the first time, in a very long time, Avery felt the faintest spark of hope return. Manhattan had always felt like a living creature to Avery Bennett, loud, relentless, and unforgiving. But now, standing inside the shimmering glass lobby of Wardstone Capital for the very first time, she felt like she'd stepped into another version of the city entirely. A version she once dreamed of, but never believed she'd touch again. The lobby stretched upward with marble floors that reflected soft amber light. Sleek elevators hummed along the far wall. The quiet confidence of the space contrasted sharply with the chaos she had just escaped outside the courthouse. People here moved differently, measured, calm, purposeful, as if nothing in the world could shake them. Avery swallowed hard. She felt out of place in her simple coat and scuffed shoes, her hair still mussed from the wind outside. She didn't belong among these polished executives holding leather portfolios and sipping espresso from tiny white cups. She didn't belong in a building where decisions worth billions were made every day. But Elias Ward walked beside her, like she was someone who deserved to be here. "I know this feels overwhelming," he said as they crossed the lobby toward the private elevators. "But you'll understand soon." Understand what? Avery wondered. Why would a billionaire open a car door for her? Why would he speak to her with a tenderness no one had offered her in years? The elevator doors opened, and they stepped into a quiet hallway lined with muted artwork and glass offices overlooking Park Avenue. The skyline stretched endlessly, glittering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Avery could see the tops of yellow cabs weaving through traffic and the sharp angles of nearby skyscrapers slicing into the gray clouds above. For the first time in a long time, she lifted her head. Elias gestured for her to enter a conference room. Inside, a long table gleamed under soft lighting. A few documents were neatly arranged near one end, and a fresh cup of coffee waited for her, still steaming. "You didn't have to bring me here," she whispered. "I don't even know why you're helping me." Elias studied her carefully, his expression unreadable. "You remind me of someone I once knew," he said softly. "Someone who never got the justice he deserved." Avery felt her breath catch. "My father?" Elias didn't answer directly. Instead, he placed a hand on the back of the chair, inviting her to sit. His silence told her enough. He knew her father, but how deeply? And why would a man of Elias Ward's power care about a blue-collar worker from Texas? Before she could ask, the door opened again. Maya Dalton, Elias's chief operations officer, entered with a tablet in hand. Sharp eyes, calm movements. The kind of woman Avery once dreamed of, becoming confident, precise, respected. "Miss Bennett," Maya said with a nod. "We've been expecting you." "Expecting me?" Avery almost laughed. Logan had spent years making her feel like an afterthought, a burden, a woman who barely deserved space in her own home. Yet here, in a building worth more than everything she had ever possessed combined, someone was expecting her. Maya placed a folder in front of her. Avery stared at it, unsure whether to touch it. "This," Maya said gently, "is the beginning of something you never saw coming." Avery's pulse quickened. The weight of the city seemed to shift around her, rearranging itself in ways she didn't yet understand. She opened the folder with trembling hands and froze when she saw the first page, realizing her entire life was about to be rewritten. Logan Pierce had always been the kind of man who understood how to fill a room, whether with charm or intimidation. It wasn't luck that carried him from a mediocre college in Ohio to a Wall Street corner office overlooking the harbor. It was calculation, precision, the ability to read people and slice them open without ever raising his voice. But how deeply? And why would a man of Elias Ward's power care about a blue-collar worker from Texas? Before she could ask, the door opened again. Maya Dalton, Elias's chief operations officer, entered with a tablet in hand. Sharp eyes, calm movements. The kind of woman Avery once dreamed of, becoming confident, precise, respected. "Miss Bennett," Maya said with a nod. "We've been expecting you." "Expecting me?" Avery almost laughed. Logan had spent years making her feel like an afterthought. But how deeply? And why would a man of Elias Ward's power care about a blue-collar worker from Texas? Before she could ask, the door opened again. Maya Dalton, Elias's chief operations officer, entered with a tablet in hand. Sharp eyes, calm movements. The kind of woman Avery once dreamed of, becoming confident, precise, respected. "Miss Bennett," Maya said with a nod. "We've been expecting you." "Expecting me?" Avery almost laughed. Logan had spent years making her feel like an afterthought. She had once believed in him so blindly it bored him. She made sacrifices without being asked, gave up her career, her identity, and her voice. In Logan's mind, that was exactly what a wife should do. Then she threatened the one thing he valued more than control, his reputation. He slammed his office door and opened his laptop. A private folder sat in the corner of his desktop, labeled only with a single letter, A. Inside were records he had manipulated, therapist notes he had twisted, screenshots of emails he intentionally took out of context, even a fabricated timeline of Avery's anxiety episodes constructed with help from a friend inside a medical office eager to earn Logan's favor. He smirked. These would be useful. Very useful. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Sienna Clark entered without waiting for permission, her perfume hitting the room before she did. A soft beige coat hung off her shoulders, and her sleek heels clicked across the hardwood floor. "You didn't tell me the hearing was today," she said, crossing her arms. Logan didn't look up. "It didn't matter. It matters to me." Her voice trembled slightly. He hated that. "Weakness. What happened?" she pressed. Logan leaned back, folding his arms. Avery made a scene. Couldn't handle basic questions. "I'm surprised the judge didn't order a psych eval." Sienna frowned. "She never seemed unstable to me." "That's because you're Nave," Logan snapped. "She's fragile. Emotional. I carried her for years. Carried her." The words stuck in Sienna's mind like a thorn. Still, she forced a smile. "Well, she's gone now. You're free." Free. Logan liked that word. He reached for a whiskey bottle he kept hidden behind his bookshelves and poured himself a glass. "Exactly. And once I secure this year's bonus, we're going to Baction." He stopped, because his screen lit up. A notification. A news alert. His name. Avery's name. Wardstone Capital. Logan blinked, leaning closer. "What is it?" Sienna asked. Logan didn't answer, because the headline made his blood run cold. Wardstone Capital's Elias Ward, seen escorting Avery Bennett after divorce hearing. His grip tightened around the glass until it almost shattered. Elias Ward. Billionaire. Power broker. A man capable of destroying everything Logan had built. Why would he be with Avery? Why her? Why now? Logan stood abruptly, knocking the whiskey bottle to the floor. Because, for the first time in years, Logan Pierce felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Avery had always believed that humiliation came quietly, that it arrived in small, private moments. A slammed door, a cruel whisper, a broken promise. But the day she learned about Logan's affair, humiliation walked straight into her life wearing red lipstick and a smug smile. It happened long before the courthouse scene, long before Elias Ward ever stepped back into her world. It was a Tuesday afternoon, one of those gray Manhattan days where clouds hung low over the skyline like heavy curtains. Avery had taken the Q train into the financial district, pushing Carter's stroller with one hand while balancing a brown paper bag of lunch for Logan in the other. His office was having a casual celebration, and he told her earlier that morning, in his dismissive way, that she should maybe stop by and look like you're supportive. She wanted to be supportive. She always had. Inside the gleaming lobby of Pierce and Halden Investments, she felt small, like she'd walked into a place where she didn't belong. Men in fitted suits walked past her without a glance. Assistants typed rapidly behind marble counters. The air smelled of cologne, money, and ambition. The receptionist recognized her. "Mrs. Pierce, you can go right up." Avery smiled weakly and pressed the elevator button. The moment the doors opened onto the 29th floor, she heard laughter. Loud, carefree, and then she saw it. Sienna Clark, long dark hair, tan coat draped over one shoulder, smile too wide leaning into Logan as he held a glass of champagne. They were standing close. Too close. "Logan," Avery called softly. His shoulders stiffened. Sienna turned first, her perfectly glossed lips parting in a sympathetic, almost pitying smile. "Oh, Avery, hi." Avery's stomach twisted. She handed Logan the lunch bag. "I brought you something, I thought." Logan interrupted with a laugh that wasn't really a laugh. "This is why I told you not to surprise me. I'm busy." A few people nearby snickered. Avery stepped back slightly. "I didn't know." Sienna placed a hand on Logan's arm. "We were just celebrating the new partnership deal. You know how intense these things get." She tilted her head. "You're okay, right? You look overwhelmed." The word stung. Overwhelmed. Unstable. Fragile. The same words Logan whispered at home when he wanted to control her. Avery opened her mouth to respond, but something behind Sienna caught her eye. Logan's suit jacket hanging over a chair. A small smear of Sienna's lipstick on the lapel. Her breath caught. Logan followed her gaze, then casually grabbed the jacket and folded it over his arm like nothing happened. "Don't read into things, Avery." But she already had. Still, she said nothing, because part of her, some naive, desperate part, wanted to believe she had imagined it. That she was exhausted, hormonal, emotional. That the problem was in her head, not in her marriage. Logan leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Don't cause a scene, not here." A scene. He said it as if her very presence threatened his image. Sienna gave a soft, rehearsed laugh. "We should get back to the meeting. Investors are waiting." Logan nodded and walked away without looking at Avery, without thanking her, without even a goodbye to his own child, sitting quietly in the stroller. But the real humiliation came seconds later. A group of junior associates began whispering. One of them, a woman with a sleek bob, sighed dramatically and said, "Poor thing. He really traded up." Avery felt the words slice through her. Traded up. As if she were an outdated version of something disposable. Her eyes burned as she backed into the elevator. The doors closed on the scene of Logan and Sienna laughing together, a picture-perfect frame of betrayal she would never forget. Later, Avery would realize something else. That lipstick stain on Logan's jacket. It wasn't the first. It wouldn't be the last. And it was the beginning of a humiliation she would one day repay with interest. There are moments in a woman's life when the world doesn't simply fall apart, it crumbles slowly, piece by painful piece, until she no longer recognizes the ground beneath her feet. For Avery Bennett, that moment arrived on a winter night so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat echoing through the tiny Brooklyn apartment she now rented with borrowed money and fading hope. Snow tapped against the window like restless fingers. Carter slept in the next room, wrapped in his blue blanket, unaware that his mother sat at the kitchen table staring at a final notice taped to the refrigerator. Rent was due in 4 days. Her bank account held $83. Her part-time bookkeeping job had politely terminated her earlier that afternoon after Logan made a single phone call to express concerns about her stability. Stability. The word haunted her like a specter. She pulled her cardigan tighter around herself, trying to quiet the trembling in her hands. She hadn't eaten since morning. Anxiety always stole her appetite. Her therapist, Dr. Kira Dalton, told her that anxiety was not weakness, that it was her nervous system trying to survive. But Logan twisted those words into a weapon, spreading the idea that she was too emotional, too fragile, too chaotic to raise a child alone. Tonight, sitting in the dim light of a second-hand lamp, Avery felt dangerously close to believing him. Her phone buzzed. A text. From Logan. I hear you were let go today. That's unfortunate. Maybe now you'll understand why Carter belongs with someone stable. A wave of nausea rolled through her. She gripped the edge of the table to keep from collapsing. Then another message came. Sign the custody agreement I offered. It's what's best for everyone. You can see him twice a month. Twice a month. Her own son, the child she had rocked through fevers, soothed after nightmares, raised while Logan traveled the world on business meetings. She turned off the phone. Her vision blurred with tears. How did I end up here? When did I stop being myself? When did the girl who survived Texas heat, New York rent, and Wall Street pressure become this fragile, shaking version of a person? Aloud knock jolted her. She wiped her face and opened the door. It was her sister, Marla, coat dusted with snow, hair frizzy from the wind, eyes filled with worry. She didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped inside, dropped a grocery bag on the counter, and wrapped Avery in a hug so tight it nearly broke her open. Why didn't you call me? Marla whispered. Avery tried to speak, but only a choked sob escaped. Marla cupped her face. You're not alone. Stop believing the lies Logan fed you for years. I can't win. Avery whispered. He has money, lawyers, connections. You have the truth, Marla said firmly. And you have me. Avery wanted to believe that. But the fear was louder. Later, after Marla put Carter back to bed, she sat beside Avery at the table and pulled out a folder. Inside were printouts, emails, screenshots. Logan isn't invincible, Marla said. You just don't know how many people want him exposed. Avery blinked. What are you talking about? Marla hesitated. Let's just say. Someone reached out. Someone who knows what he's been doing. Someone who wants to help. Avery frowned. Who? Marla closed the folder slowly, her expression serious. I don't know their name, she said. But they left a message. She handed Avery a small white card. No signature. No logo. Just a single line typed neatly across the center. You're not going to fight this alone. Avery's heart pounded. A strange mix of fear and hope flooded her chest. Marla squeezed her hand. Whoever they are, they're watching Logan. Avery stared at the card, breath trembling. And for the first time, she wondered, what kind of person had stepped into her life from the shadows? And why were they choosing her? The card lay on Avery's nightstand for 3 days, untouched, unread, but impossible to ignore. Every time she walked past it, something inside her tightened. Someone was watching Logan. Someone knew he wasn't the flawless Wall Street darling he pretended to be. Someone knew she couldn't keep fighting alone. Still, she didn't dare hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope made you trust the wrong people like Logan Pierce. On the third morning, after barely sleeping, Avery tucked the card into her coat pocket and headed to Dr. Kira Dalton's office. Her breath fogged in the freezing air as she walked past shuttered casts and steaming manholes, pushing through the sharp Manhattan wind. Her mind churned with questions she couldn't outrun. Who sent that card? Why now? And how much did they know? As she stepped into the warm lobby of the clinic, Dr. Dalton greeted her with the same gentle smile. She always used the kind of smile that made Avery feel human again. You look tired, Dr. Dalton said softly. Rough week? Avery sat down, twisting the card between her fingers. More than rough. Something strange happened. She handed the card over. Dr. Dalton studied it, brow furrowing. No name, no contact information. Doe. I know, Avery whispered. Marla found it in her mailbox. Someone put it there without knocking. Dr. Dalton leaned back, thoughtful. People like Logan don't rise as far as he has without stepping on others. Maybe someone he hurt wants to see justice. Or maybe this is another one of his games, Avery said bitterly. Maybe he wants me paranoid. Dr. Dalton shook her head. Avery, listen to me. Your fear is real, but it doesn't mean you're powerless. Sometimes the people who seem untouchable are the ones closest to falling. Those words stayed with her long after she left the clinic. That evening, after putting Carter to bed, Avery sat alone in the living room, staring out the window at the streetlights glowing against the snow. The shadows seemed heavier tonight. Time stretched painfully slow, until a soft buzz came from her phone. Unknown number. Her heart jumped. She almost ignored it. Almost. But something made her swipe the screen. A single text appeared. You need to check your email. A friend. Her pulse spiked. Her fingers trembled as she opened her inbox. A new message waited. No subject. No sender. Avery clicked. At first, she didn't understand what she was seeing. Then her breath caught. It was a series of screenshots. Financial records. Internal transfers. Hidden accounts. Fake invoices connected to real clients. Dollar amounts so high her mind struggled to grasp them. And attached at the bottom an audio file. She pressed play. Logan's voice filled the room. Relax, Sienna. The board won't see the numbers. I've been moving funds through the Delaware Channel for months. Just stick to the story I gave you and keep the investors smiling. Pause. Then Sienna's voice soft, scared. And Avery. What if she finds out about the missing money? Logan laughed. A cruel, arrogant sound Avery knew too well. Avery? She can barely manage her own mind. She won't figure out anything. Avery's hands shook violently. This wasn't rumors. This wasn't manipulation. This was criminal. And someone had just handed her the first piece of Logan's downfall. Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. You're not imagining things. You're not weak. And you're not crazy. Pierce has enemies he never counted on. Let us help you bring him down. Avery's throat tightened. Her chest hurt from the force of her heartbeat. She typed one word. Who? The reply came instantly. Someone who wants what you want. The truth. Avery stared at the glowing screen, breath trembling. For the first time, she wasn't scared alone. Someone out there knew what Logan truly was. And they had chosen her to start exposing him. And Avery Bennett knew this was the moment her silent suffering began turning into silent power. The morning after Avery received the anonymous evidence, the world around her seemed strange, too quiet, too still, as if holding its breath. She hadn't slept. Her eyes were swollen, her nerves burned, and her mind spun like a wheel refusing to stop. Every few minutes, she reached for her phone, rereading the message, replaying the damning audio of Logan, admitting to financial fraud as casually as someone ordering coffee. She felt sick. She felt terrified. But beneath it all, a spark of something dangerous stirred. A spark called clarity. Still, clarity didn't stop real life from collapsing around her. By noon, her landlord knocked on the door. Avery opened it, her heart dropping the moment she saw his expression, a look of forced politeness mixed with unavoidable firmness. Miss Bennett, he began, shifting awkwardly. I'm sorry, but I can't keep extending deadlines. Rent is past due. I'll need payment by Friday, or... He hesitated because he wasn't a cruel man. Or I'll have to move forward with eviction paperwork. The humiliation burned, but Avery nodded. I understand. He gave her a sad smile and left. She closed the door and leaned her forehead against it, tears gathering again. She had evidence that could destroy Logan's entire career, but she still couldn't even keep a roof over her child's head. Reality was heavy, crushing. She got Carter from daycare early, unable to focus on anything else. They sat together on the couch, him coloring on the coffee table while she stared at her phone. She wanted to call someone, anyone. But she had no one except Marla, and she didn't want to risk dragging her sister deeper into the chaos. By late afternoon, the stress became physical. Her chest tightened, her hands went cold, and a ringing filled her ears. Doctor. Dalton warned her about this sensation. The beginning of a panic attack. Breathe. 5 seconds in. Hold. 7 seconds out. But today, it wasn't enough. She grabbed her coat and walked to the nearest pharmacy in the bitter wind, trying to steady herself. Inside, harsh fluorescent lights made her slightly dizzy. She picked up the prescription Dr. Dalton had given her months earlier, but rarely used. As she waited in line, two women nearby whispered. "Did you see the headline?" one murmured. "Logan Pierce's ex-wife left the courthouse crying. Poor thing, looks unstable." The other sighed. "I heard she's losing custody, something about mental health issues." Avery froze. They weren't being cruel. They were repeating what Logan wanted the world to believe. She paid quickly and stepped outside, the cold air hitting her like a wall. That's when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. The same one as before. "We need to meet. Today. There's more you need to know. A friend." Her breath formed a small cloud in front of her. "Where?" She typed. The reply came instantly. "Corner of 7th and West 32nd. Bring your phone. And don't tell anyone." His stomach dropped. The request felt dangerous. Maybe even reckless. But so was staying silent. She hurried back to the apartment, bundled Carter in his coat, and called Marla. "Can you watch him for a few hours? I need to handle something important." Marla didn't ask questions. "Of course. Bring him over." Once Carter was safe, Avery stepped back into the freezing evening and made her way to 7th and West 32nd. The streets buzzed with late commuters leaving their offices, the lights of Herald Square casting bright reflections across wet pavement. Her pulse pounded as she approached the corner. A figure stepped out from the alley. A woman, tall, sharp-featured, wrapped in a tan coat. Avery stopped breathing, because she knew that face. It was Sienna Clark, Logan's mistress, the woman who helped ruin her life. And Sienna looked terrified. "Avery," she whispered, eyes darting around. "We don't have much time." Avery's heart slammed painfully against her ribs, because nothing in this world made sense anymore, especially not Sienna Clark becoming her unexpected ally. For a long moment, Avery couldn't speak. The street noise faded, honking taxis, the rustle of passing coats, the murmur of evening commuters, all of it blurred into a distant hum. All she could see was Sienna Clark standing under the yellow streetlight, shivering as though the cold weren't the only thing gripping her. Avery's stomach tightened. "What are you doing here? If Logan sees you..." "He won't," Sienna cut in, voice trembling. "He thinks I'm at a PR dinner." I slipped out. Avery narrowed her eyes. "Why would you risk that?" Sienna swallowed. "Because if you go into the next hearing without knowing everything, he'll destroy you. And I can't be part of that anymore." Wind whipped Sienna's hair across her face. She brushed it aside, revealing eyes rimmed red not from makeup, but from fear. Avery folded her arms tightly. "You expect me to believe you suddenly care? After everything you did?" Sienna winced. "I know what I look like to you. I know what I've been. But Logan didn't just manipulate you, Avery. He manipulated me too." Avery almost laughed, sharp, bitter. "You weren't married to him. You didn't give up your entire life." "No," Sienna whispered. "But I gave up mine in a different way." She reached into her coat and pulled out a flash drive, clenched so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Avery stared. "What's that?" "The rest of the audio files. And documents. Real ones. Internal transfers. Whistleblower reports that never made it to the board." Her voice cracked. "I copied them months ago, but I was too scared to do anything. Logan made sure of that." Avery's breath hitched. "Why now?" Sienna's expression, twisted pain, shame, and something like desperation. "Because he's not just going after you anymore. He's turning on me too." For the first time, Avery noticed the faint bruise under Sienna's makeup. Not a fresh one, but recent enough. Her chest tightened. "Did he?" Sienna looked away. "He said if I didn't play along with his story, the one that paints you as unstable, he'd ruin me. Blacklist me in the entire industry. He said he'd tell everyone I was sleeping my way into promotions. He'd leak personal photos. You know him. You know he'll do anything." Avery did know, too well. "But why would you help me?" Avery asked softly. Sienna exhaled shakily. "Because you're the only one who can take him down. I can't go to the board, they think I'm his puppet. The SEC won't talk to me without proof I was coerced. And Logan's already preparing to make you look unfit." She pressed the flash drive into Avery's hand. This is your leverage, your shield, maybe even your sword. Avery stared at the small device, feeling its weight like it was a live wire. Why give it to me? She whispered. Sienna's eyes shone. Because you're not the woman he says you are. You're stronger than he ever realized. And because someone else believes in you. Avery's heart skipped. Someone else? Sienna nodded slowly. You think Logan was the one watching you? Manipulating your job? Your life? Avery. Someone bigger was watching. Someone powerful. Not to hurt you, but to protect you. A chill ran down Avery's spine. Who? Sienna glanced over Avery's shoulder, scanning the street nervously. I don't know his name, but Logan does. And he's terrified. Fear flickered across Sienna's face again. She stepped closer, voice low. Logan is planning something. Something big. He's meeting with 2 partners tomorrow to get ahead of the rumors. He wants to bury you in court, and he's ready to pay whoever he has to. Avery's grip tightened. How do you know? Sienna swallowed hard before whispering. Because he told me he's done playing nice. He said he's going to take Carter from you permanently. The world tilted. Avery felt her knees nearly buckle. Sienna grabbed her arm. Listen to me. Go somewhere safe. Use that flash drive. Talk to the man who sent the card. Because Logan isn't going to stop until he breaks you completely. Avery stared at her, heart pounding, mind racing. And how do I find him? She asked. Sienna's eyes lifted toward the glowing skyline. You won't, she said. He'll find you. Mastrine. And before Avery could ask another question, Sienna turned and disappeared into the crowd, leaving Avery standing alone on the sidewalk with a flash drive that could shatter Logan Pierce's empire. Avery barely remembered the train ride home. Her mind was a storm fragments of Sienna's trembling voice, the weight of the flash drive in her pocket, the echo of Logan's threat to take Carter permanently. The city lights blurred past the window like streaks of white and gold, but she felt nothing except the pounding of fear inside her chest. By the time she reached her apartment, her hands were numb. Marla opened the door before she could knock. You look pale. What happened? Avery shook her head. Later. I need to see something. She went straight to the tiny kitchen table, sat down, and pulled out her old MacBook Air, the same one she'd used before her life fell apart. The screen flickered before turning on, the dim glow lighting her anxious face. Marla hovered nearby, worry etched in every line of her expression. What is that? Marla asked as Avery plugged in the flash drive. Proof, Avery whispered, or a trap I don't know yet. When the folders opened, Avery's breath hitched. This wasn't just evidence. This was a blueprint of Logan's corruption. Documents, spreadsheets, emails, hundreds of them. Transfers hidden inside a shell company. False invoices tied to investor accounts. Unreported earnings. And notes revealing he was preparing to shift blame onto someone else if the scheme surfaced. Avery clicked on one file labeled Wardstone. Her pulse quickened. Inside was a report detailing Logan's attempts to siphon money through a project funded partly by Wardstone Capital Elias Ward's empire. Oh my God, she breathed. He's been using Wardstone to launder money. Marla leaned closer. That's a federal crime, Avery. Avery clicked the next file and froze. It was a private message from Logan to one of his partners. We need to deal with Ward before he figures out the numbers. If he connects the missing funds back to us, we're done. Also, keep an eye on Avery. She's getting too curious. Marla's eyes widened. Avery. He wasn't just trying to hurt your reputation. He was scared of what you'd discover. Avery pressed a hand to her forehead. He wasn't attacking her because she was weak. He was attacking her because she was dangerous to him. Because she knew how to read financial patterns. Because she could expose him without even realizing it. Her phone buzzed suddenly. Unknown number. Are you home? Avery's stomach dropped. She typed back with trembling fingers. Who is this? A moment passed. Then another text appeared. Look outside. Avery's breath caught. She moved to the window and carefully peeled back the curtain. A black Mercedes Maybach was parked below. Sleek, dark, unmistakable. Her pulse roared in her ears. Marla whispered sharply, Is that Avery? Is that him? Avery grabbed her coat, heart hammering. I need to go downstairs. Stay here with Carter. Marla grabbed her arm. Be careful. Avery nodded and hurried into the stairwell, each step echoing loudly in the silence. When she reached the front door of the building, the driver was already holding it open. "Miss Bennett," he said with a respectful nod. "Mr. Ward is waiting for you." Chabber. Avery followed him to the car, her legs unsteady. The door opened, and there he was. Elias Ward. Even seated, he radiated the controlled power of a man who lived far above the world's chaos. The soft cabin lighting framed his face with quiet authority. "Avery," he said gently, "please sit." Her voice shook. "Why are you here? Why me?" Elias studied her carefully, his eyes reflecting something deeper than concern. "Because Logan Pierce has crossed a line," he said. "And because you're the only person with the courage and the knowledge to help expose him." Avery swallowed hard. "But how do you even know me? Why protect me?" Elias leaned forward, voice low. "Because you're not just a victim of Logan Pierce," he said. "You're the daughter of a man who once saved my life." The world tilted. Avery gripped the seat. What do you mean?" Elias exhaled slowly. "There's something you need to know about your father," he said. He paused. Then, with quiet gravity, he whispered, "And it's time I finally tell you the truth." For a moment, Avery forgot how to breathe. The hum of the Mercedes faded, the warmth of the leather seat disappeared, and all she could hear was the echo of Elias Ward's words circling inside her mind. "Your father once saved my life." Her father? The man who worked double shifts at a dusty construction yard. The man who packed her lunches with handwritten notes. The man who died believing he never gave her enough. Avery's voice trembled. I don't understand. My father didn't know billionaires. He barely knew anyone outside our town." Elias's expression softened with something that looked like memory and grief. "Your father was a quiet man. But quiet men sometimes carry the biggest burdens." He folded his hands, choosing his words carefully. 20 years ago, before Wardstone became what it is today, I was a nobody, drowning in debt. A project I believed in collapsed, and I was on the verge of losing everything: my career, my reputation, my future. He paused. I tried to fix it myself. I thought I could rebuild alone. I was wrong. Avery stared at him, heart pounding. "What does that have to do with my dad?" Elias took a slow breath. "Your father, Samuel Bennett, was working construction on a small property I purchased in Texas. One night, after everyone had left the site, I stayed behind. I was exhausted and reckless. Part of the scaffolding collapsed." He looked directly into her eyes. "I would have died, Avery. Crushed. No one was supposed to be there." A breath. "But your father turned back because he'd forgotten his lunchbox. He saw what happened. And he didn't hesitate, not for a second. He pulled me out." Saishan. Avery's throat tightened. Elias's voice grew quieter. "He called for help. He stayed with me until the ambulance came. And when I thanked him afterward, he just said, 'Anyone would have done it.'" That sounded exactly like her father. Humble. Selfless. Unaware of his own worth. Avery blinked rapidly. "He never told us. I never knew." Elias nodded slowly. "He didn't want anything in return. But I promised myself that if life ever brought his family into mine again, I would honor him, protect them, do for them what he did for me." A tear slipped down Avery's cheek. "And that's why you helped me at the courthouse?" "That was only part of it," Elias replied. "The rest was because I've been watching Logan Pierce for a long time." Avery tensed. "Watching him? He's been interfering with a Wardstone-backed project for months," Elias said, eyes sharpening. "At first we thought it was incompetence. Then we realized it was deliberate. Quiet, hidden, and dangerous." Avery felt cold. "And you think I had something to do with it?" Elias shook his head. "No. I think Logan has been using you. Monitoring what you know. Isolating you. Making sure you never connected the dots." Avery's breath quickened. "The job I lost. The rumors. The pressure. Was any of that—" "Yes," Elias interrupted gently. "His doing. He planned to cut you off from every resource while he completed his scheme. But when my team discovered your name on several internal notes, I started looking deeper. That's when I remembered Samuel Bennett." He leaned closer. And that's when I realized Logan's corruption was tied directly to the woman he was trying to destroy. Avery felt dizzy. The pieces were falling into place too fast. Elias continued, his tone steady but urgent. You are not weak. You were targeted. There's a difference. Avery's hands trembled in her lap. So what happens now? I have evidence. Sienna gave me more. But Logan, he's dangerous. And he wants Carter. Elias nodded. I know. That's why you're not going to face this alone. Avery swallowed. What are you saying? Elias held her gaze, his voice low and unwavering. I'm saying you're coming under my protection. Wardstone's protection. And together, Avery, we're going to end Logan Pierce. A breath hitched in Avery's chest. Your father, Samuel Bennett, was working construction on a small property I purchased in Texas. One night, after everyone had left the site, I stayed behind. I was exhausted and reckless. Part of the scaffolding collapsed. He looked directly into her eyes. I would have died, Avery. Crushed. No one was supposed to be there. A breath. But your father turned back because he'd forgotten his lunchbox. He saw what happened. And he didn't hesitate, not for a second. He pulled me out. And, Elias added quietly, we're going to make sure he never gets near your son again. And for the first time in years, Avery felt something powerful, the feeling of someone finally standing between her and the storm. The next morning, Manhattan woke under a steel-gray sky, the kind that made the city feel heavier than usual. Avery Bennett stood at the courthouse entrance again, but this time, something inside her had shifted. So what happens now? I have evidence. Sienna gave me more. But Logan, he's dangerous. And he wants Carter. Elias nodded. I know. That's why you're not going to face this alone. Avery swallowed. What are you saying? Elias held her gaze, his voice low and unwavering. I'm saying you're coming under my protection. Wardstone's protection. And together, Avery, we're going to end Logan Pierce. A breath hitched in Avery's chest. Fear still lived in her chest, but it was no longer steering her. She wasn't here as a woman begging to be believed. She was here as a woman holding truth sharp enough to cut through every lie Logan Pierce had built. Inside the massive stone building, fluorescent lights buzzed softly, casting a pale glow across the hallway. Lawyers hurried past carrying thick case files. Court officers clicked radios clipped to their belts. The air smelled of paper, old carpet, and tension. Avery walked slowly through the security checkpoint, her fingers brushing the flash drive hidden inside her coat pocket. She wasn't planning on revealing it today, not yet. Elias had been clear. The timing had to be precise. But just knowing she had it made her spine straighten, her heart beat steadier. Marla walked beside her, offering quiet strength. Whatever happens today, she whispered, you're not that broken woman he thinks you are. Avery nodded. Not anymore. Bennett's mental stability. We have documentation.com. But Avery's new attorney, provided discreetly through Wardstone's legal network, stood first. A woman in her 50s with iron-gray hair and a voice like polished steel. Your Honor, she said, we reject any claim of instability. We have expert testimony from Dr. Kira Dalton confirming Miss Sesson. Bennett is mentally sound, actively receiving care, and not impaired in her parenting. Furthermore, she slid a sealed envelope onto the table. We have reason to believe the opposing party has fabricated or manipulated evidence to misrepresent Miss Bennett's condition. Logan stiffened. His lawyer's jaw tightened. The judge's eyebrows lifted. Fabricated evidence is a serious allegation. Yes, Your Honor, Avery's attorney replied, which is why we request a forensic review of all materials submitted by Mr. Pierce. We also request a temporary order restricting further dissemination of claims about Miss Bennett's mental health until the review is complete. Logan shot to his feet. This is ridiculous. She's trying to stall. Sit down, Mr. Pierce, the judge snapped. Avery watched him, her pulse steady. For once, Logan looked like the one losing control. Her attorney continued. We also have concerns regarding the financial disclosures Mr. Pierce submitted to this court. There appear to be inconsistencies, substantial ones. Logan froze. Inconsistencies? The judge repeated. Yes, her attorney said smoothly. We will submit corrected documents within 48 hours. Logan's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. Logan's face paled. Avery felt the power shift like a tide finally turning in her favor. The judge sighed. Until this is resolved, I'm issuing a temporary halt on custody modifications. Miss Bennett retains primary care of her child. Avery closed her eyes, relief washing over her like warm water. Logan clenched his pen so tightly it nearly snapped. The gavel struck. Cour d'adjourn. As people filed out, Logan approached her, fury burning in his eyes. You think you've won? You have no idea what you've started. Avery stepped closer, voice quiet but firm. No, Logan, you have no idea what I've ended. He stared at her, shocked by the confidence in her tone. And for the first time, Avery saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. The day after the court hearing, Avery woke before sunrise. For the first time in months, she didn't wake to panic. She woke to purpose. Soft morning light crept through the blinds of her small Brooklyn apartment, brushing against the cluttered table where the flash drive still sat beside her laptop. She stared at it for a moment, feeling its weight even when untouched. It was strange, she thought, how something so small could contain the power to destroy an empire. But today wasn't about destruction. Today was about rebuilding. She tied her hair back, slipped into the cleanest blouse she owned, and took the subway to Park Avenue. She hadn't stepped inside an office building since Logan sabotaged her career. Her chest tightened with old fears as she approached the towering glass structure of Wardstone Capital, but she forced her feet forward. When she entered the lobby, she didn't feel invisible the way she once did. People glanced up. Not with judgment, just curiosity. She checked in with security, received a visitor badge, and waited by the elevators. Maya Dalton appeared moments later, crisp in a charcoal suit, holding a tablet. Avery. Elias asked me to bring you up. Avery followed her into a private elevator. The doors closed, and they began rising smoothly. You held your composure in court, Maya said without looking up from her tablet. Not everyone can do that. Avery shrugged slightly. I've had a lot of practice pretending I'm okay. 1. Maya finally met her gaze. You don't need to pretend here. Those simple words nearly broke her. On the top floor, Maya led Avery into a conference room lined with windows that revealed the Manhattan skyline stretching endlessly into the distance. A MacBook Pro sat open at one end of the table, alongside printed trade reports. You'll start here, Maya said. Elias wants you to consult on an internal review of the real estate fund Logan tampered with. You're not replacing anyone, you're extending the oversight team. Avery blinked. Me, I haven't worked in years. I'm rusty. I don't even know if I can still avert out of. You can, Maya interrupted. You have an analytical instinct most analysts lose once they become political. You see things numbers aren't supposed to show. She gestured at the reports. Prove it. Find whatever Logan tried to bury. Avery sat slowly, her fingers grazing the keyboard. The familiar sensation a spreadsheet under her hands, patterns waiting to be found, sparked something dormant inside her. Something she thought Logan had taken forever. Confidence. Maya left her alone, and Avery began reviewing months of financial data. At first, her hands shook. But as numbers filled her screen, her breathing steadied. She found irregular leasing expenses, unusual contractor changes, discrepancies between projected and actual valuations. It was all there like breadcrumbs. Logan never expected anyone to follow. Hours passed. Avery barely moved. When she finally sat back, the sun was setting outside, painting the skyline gold. Someone knocked gently. Elias stepped in, hands in his coat pockets. Long day? Avery nodded, exhausted but proud. I found something. Several things. He overreported the asset value and rerouted investor funds. And he hid it in places only someone who'd followed his old deals would know. Why? Elias smiled small, approving. Then you've done more in one day than my team could in 3 months. Her breath caught. Really? Yes. He walked closer, his voice softer now. Avery, what Logan tried to break in you, that's the part he feared most. Not your weakness, your talent. Her throat tightened. Elias placed a folder on the table beside her. I want you on this project full-time. And once this settles, I want to discuss a more permanent role. A permanent role. A future she controlled. A career she rebuilt herself. Tears pricked her eyes. Before she could speak, Elias added gently, There's one more thing. Avery looked up. His expression was calm, but his words carried weight. Logan knows someone helped you. He's digging. And he's getting desperate. A chill swept down Avery's spine. Elias continued. Things will escalate. Quickly. Avery swallowed. What do I do? Elias met her gaze steady, unwavering. You keep going, he said. Because for the first time, you're not the one being hunted. He paused. He is. And Avery realized. This wasn't just rebuilding. This was the beginning of taking her life back piece by piece, truth by truth. In the days that followed, Avery fell into a rhythm she hadn't felt in years. She woke early, got Carter ready for daycare, grabbed a quick Starbucks along the way, then rode the subway to Wardstone Capital. Each morning, she sat in the same glass-walled office overlooking Park Avenue, fingers flying across her MacBook Pro as she uncovered layer after layer of Logan's deceit. But with every truth she unearthed, the danger around her grew thicker. By the end of the week, exhaustion clung to her like a second skin. She hadn't slept more than a few hours each night. The pressure of balancing motherhood, court battles, and an explosive financial investigation was wearing her thin. Even so, Avery pushed forward, because the alternative, letting Logan win, was no longer an option. One evening, long after most employees had gone home, Avery was still at her desk, scrolling through coded transaction histories. The office lights dimmed automatically, casting long shadows across the glass. The city glittered below like a shifting sea of amber and white. She rubbed her eyes, taken by sudden dizziness. Her chest tightened. Her breathing hitched. Not now. Not here. Not another panic attack. She gripped the edge of the desk, fighting for control. She counted her breaths, remembering Dr. Dalton's voice. You are safe. You are capable. This is your body reacting to fear, not failing. Still, the fear felt suffocating. She stood shakily and stepped into the hallway. Maya Dalton was just locking her office door when she saw Avery. Her expression softened instantly. You look pale. How long have you been here? Avery forced a shaky smile. I'm okay. Just tired. No, Maya said, walking toward her. You're exhausted. There's a difference. Avery's voice cracked. I just need to get through this. I can't fall apart now. Maya touched her arm gently. Falling apart isn't weakness, Avery. It's a sign you've been strong for far too long. Those words shattered something inside her. Avery sank onto a nearby bench, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She hadn't cried in front of anyone besides Marla in years. She felt exposed, vulnerable, but strangely relieved. I'm scared, she whispered. He's not just fighting me anymore. He's cornered. And men like Logan are dangerous when they're cornered. Maya nodded. Yes, but he's also sloppy now. He's making mistakes. And that means he's losing. Avery wiped her face. He called me 6 times today. I blocked him. Then he used another number. He left a voicemail saying I'd regret overstepping. Maya's jaw tightened. He's spiraling. And he knows you're not alone anymore. That terrifies him. Avery exhaled shakily. Part of me still feels like he could take everything. My job, my child, my sanity. Listen to me, Maya said firmly, crouching so she was eye level. You are not alone. Elias has eyes on everything. So do I. So does the legal team. You're not fighting in the dark anymore. Avery nodded, but the fear clung stubbornly. Maya continued softly. Let me drive you home. No, Avery whispered. There's something I need to tell you first. Maya waited. Avery hesitated, then confessed. Sienna gave me more than documents. She told me Logan has a plan to bury me before the next hearing. She said he's meeting with partners to make sure the narrative is airtight. Maya's expression hardened. And did she say how he plans to do that? Avery swallowed. He wants to take Carter. Permanently. Silence. Cold. Heavy. Brutal. Maya's eyes sharpened to steel. Then we make sure tomorrow's the day Logan Pierce loses more than he ever expected. Avery's heart drummed against her ribs. Tomorrow? She whispered. Yes, Maya said. Elias wants you at Wardstone at 8 sharp. No delays. He didn't tell me why. But he said it's time. Avery blinked. Time for what? Maya straightened, offering her a hand. To stop being the hunted, she said, and become the one writing the ending. Avery took her hand, rising slowly. For the first time since the divorce began, she felt something real and powerful cutting through the fear. Avery Bennett was becoming dangerous, and Logan Pierce had no idea what was coming. The next morning, an icy wind swept across Park Avenue as Avery hurried into the Wardstone Capitol Tower. Her breath misted in the air, her nerves coiled tight beneath her coat. She barely slept, her mind replaying Maya's warning, "Tomorrow is the day." She didn't know what Elias had planned, but the moment she stepped into the marble-floored lobby, she sensed the shift. Security guards she'd never seen before lined the perimeter. Executives moved briskly, whispering into their phones. Something big was unfolding. Maya met her at the private elevator, her expression more serious than Avery had ever seen. "You're right on time," she said. "Come with me." Avery followed her into the elevator. "What's happening? Did something go wrong?" Maya shook her head. "Not wrong. I'd say inevitable." When the doors opened on the top floor, Avery froze. A boardroom full of people stood waiting, more than a dozen of Wardstone's senior partners. Men and women in tailored suits, crisp dress shirts, polished shoes. They held tablets, folders, and silent tension. At the head of the room stood Elias. He was different this morning, sharper, colder, carrying the gravity of a man about to execute a long-planned strike. He motioned for her to come forward. "Avery," he said, his voice steady but unmistakably charged. "Thank you for being here." She swallowed, stepping beside him. "Maya said you needed me early." "I do." Elias nodded toward the screen behind him. "And so does everyone in this room." Avery followed his gaze. Projected across the screen was a spreadsheet. Her spreadsheet. The one she rebuilt last night before collapsing into exhausted sleep. The one exposing Logan's hidden transfers. A murmur ran through the room. "These inconsistencies were uncovered by Miss Bennett," Elias announced. "And they are far more serious than anticipated." Avery felt dozens of eyes shift toward her. She stood straighter. Elias continued. "For months, Pierce and Halden has been leaking investor funds through shell companies. But what most of you don't know is how deeply this affects Wardstone." He clicked a button. A new document filled the screen. Avery gasped. It was a contract. Signed. Stamped. Dated. 1 year ago, Elias said, Logan Pierce quietly attempted to acquire access to one of our largest real estate portfolios. Through bribery, back channels, and falsified projections, he positioned himself to siphon millions from Wardstone's own investments. A heavy silence blanketed the room. Avery whispered, "He used my father's name on the paperwork." Elias nodded grimly. "Yes, to make you seem complicit if anything came to light." Anger burned through Avery's veins. Logan hadn't just tried to destroy her, he tried to drag her father's memory through the mud. Elias stepped closer to her. "But you uncovered the trail. You found what none of us saw." Avery blinked. "I didn't do it alone." "Sienna." Maya interrupted. "Sienna Clark met with our internal investigators early this morning. She handed over additional files. She's under protection now." Avery's breath caught. "Is she safe?" "Yes," Maya said, and furious. Logan turned on her too. "Sabo." Elias lifted a hand, calling the room to order. "Today," he said, "we move forward. I've called an emergency joint meeting between Wardstone and the Pierce and Halden board. Miss Bennett will be present." Avery froze. "Me?" "Yes." Elias met her eyes. "This is your work. Your truth. Your voice. No one tells your story but you." Fear flickered, but something stronger pushed it aside. "Avery," Maya said softly, "this is the moment you get to stop reacting and start fighting back." "R." Avery inhaled, slow and steady. "What do I need to do?" she asked. Elias's answer was quiet, but firm. "You need to walk into that room," he said, "and show them what Logan Pierce tried to destroy and what he failed to break." Avery looked at the partners, at the documents, at the truth laid bare. Then she looked at Elias. "I can do that," she whispered. Elias nodded once. "Good," he said. "Because the meeting starts in 30 minutes. Avery's pulse thundered. 30 minutes until she confronted the man who stole years of her life. 30 minutes until the hunted became the hunter. 30 minutes until everything changed. And when Avery walked out of that boardroom, nothing in Logan Pierce's world would ever be the same again. The conference room where Wardstone and Pierce and Halden would meet wasn't just a room, it was an arena. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Manhattan skyline, the winter sun slicing across the table like a spotlight waiting for the truth. The air hummed with tension. Executives shifted in their seats, whispering behind cups of black coffee. Papers rustled like nervous hands. Avery Bennett stood outside the door, her palms damp, her breath trembling despite everything she'd learned. She could hear the muffled voices inside voices, belonging to men who once treated Logan Pierce like a golden boy. Men who would soon realize he'd led them into a disaster that could ruin their reputations, their investments, even their freedom. Maya adjusted the lapel of Avery's blazer. "You ready?" "No," Avery whispered honestly. "But I'm doing it anyway." Maya smiled faintly. "Good. That means you're ready." Elias approached, calm and composed, carrying a leather folder under his arm. He looked at Avery with quiet confidence. "Whatever happens in there, I want you to remember something." Avery swallowed. "What's that?" "You belong in that room more than Logan ever did," he said. "You earned your seat, he stole his." Her breath hitched. Elias squeezed her shoulder, gently steadying, grounding. "Let's go," he said. The doors opened. Every head turned. Logan sat on the far side of the table, stunned when he saw her. His jaw locked. His pen froze mid-tap. For the first time, his eyes didn't hold arrogance, they held calculation. And fear. Elias took his place at the head of the table. Avery stood beside him. "Thank you for joining us on short notice," Elias began, voice smooth as stone. "We have critical matters to address before Pierce and Halden moves forward with our partnership proposal." A senior partner from Logan's firm frowned. "This better be worth delaying a global call." "Ward." "Oh, it is," Elias said. He clicked a remote. A screen lit up with Avery's spreadsheet. The room stilled. Logan sat forward sharply. "Elias, this is absurd. That data is taken out of context. I can explain." "You'll have your chance," Elias said, cutting him off with polite ruthlessness. "But first, Miss Bennett will walk us through her findings." A few executives exchanged confused glances. Avery stepped forward. At first, her voice quivered. "For several months, funds from your investment portfolios have been redirected through shell companies, many of them disguised as real estate renovation expenses." She clicked to the next slide. A series of fake contractor invoices appeared. These payments were intentionally distributed in amounts small enough to avoid internal triggers. Avery continued, her voice gaining strength. "But the patterns match older deals only one person had access to." She turned toward Logan. His face drained of color. "This scheme," she said clearly, "was orchestrated by Logan Pierce." Gasps filled the room. Logan stood abruptly. "This is outrageous. She's lying, she's unstable. Avery didn't flinch. "You forged my father's signature to make it look like I was involved." Silence. Deep. Suffocating. One partner muttered. "He what?" Avery clicked again. This time, the audio file played. Logan's voice spilled into the room. "Relax, Sienna. The board won't see the numbers." Avery can barely manage her own mind. Executives stiffened. One man removed his glasses. Another cursed under his breath. Logan lunged for the laptop. But two Wardstone security officers stepped forward. Elias folded his arms. "Mr. Pierce, the floor will now respond to Miss Bennett's findings." The oldest partner in Logan's firm, white-haired, stern, leaned back slowly. "Logan, you dragged us into federal fraud." Logan sputtered. "I can explain. She's manipulating. This is a setup." "No, Mr. Pierce," Elias said, voice low. "This is the truth you built with your own hands." Avery lifted her chin. "For years, you told me I was weak," she said quietly. "But look at me now." Logan's face contorted with rage and something else. Panic. Because he knew. This room wasn't his anymore. This room wasn't fooled. This room believed her. Elias glanced her way, pride flickering in his eyes. "Ms. Bennett," he said, "thank you. We'll take it from here." But Avery wasn't finished. She stepped closer to Logan. "You won't take Carter from me," she said softly. "You won't take anything from me ever again." Logan's lips trembled. Because in that moment, Avery Bennett wasn't afraid. She was the storm coming for him. The news broke before sunset. A Wall Street leak. A whistleblower rumor. A mysterious internal breach. By evening, every major financial outlet was circulating the same headline. Investigation confirmed. Logan Pierce accused of fraud, misuse of investor funds. Avery read it on her phone as she stood outside the Plaza Hotel, adjusting the strap of her modest black dress. Frosty air curled around her cheeks. Cars lined the curb, headlights glimmering on the wet pavement like scattered diamonds. Cameras flashed near the entrance paparazzi, waiting for high-profile guests attending Wardstone's annual charity gala. She shouldn't have been here. A few months ago, she wouldn't even have been allowed near the velvet ropes. But tonight, she wasn't the quiet, discarded ex-wife anymore. She was part of Wardstone's inner circle. Maya approached from behind, dressed in a navy gown that commanded attention without asking for it. "You good?" she asked, slipping into step beside her. Avery exhaled slowly. As good as someone attending a gala while their ex-husband implodes can be. Maya smirked. Fair. Inside, the ballroom shimmered beneath gold chandeliers. Crystal glasses clinked. A jazz quartet played softly. The air smelled of perfume, champagne, and old money. Guests mingled with easy confidence, the effortlessly privileged, laughing as if the world outside were a distant inconvenience. Avery followed Maya through the crowd, feeling dozens of eyes drift toward her. Some recognized her, some whispered. Some just stared because she walked beside Wardstone executives now. At the front of the room, Elias stood speaking with a group of international investors. But when he saw Avery, everything around him seemed to quiet. He excused himself and walked toward her with that steady, grounding presence she'd begun to rely on more than she admitted. "Avery," he said, offering his arm. "You look incredible." Her cheeks warmed. "Thank you, I feel out of place." You're not," Elias said simply. "Not anymore." Before she could respond, the ballroom doors slammed open. A hush rippled through the crowd. Logan Pierce stood in the doorway, disheveled, sweating, tea crooked, eyes bloodshot with fury. People stepped back instinctively, as if sensing danger. Avery felt her breath falter just for a moment. Logically, she knew he couldn't hurt her here. But trauma didn't care about logic. Logan spotted her instantly. "There you are," he snarled, storming forward. "You think you can ruin me? You think you can destroy my life?" Security started to move. But Elias lifted a hand, a silent command to let the moment play. Logan pointed at Avery, spit flying as he shouted, "You had help. Someone fed you those files. You're not smart enough to find that on your own." The room gasped. Avery stood straighter. Her voice was calm, cold. "You built your empire on lies, Logan. It was only a matter of time before it crumbled." Logan's face twisted. "You did this. You and—" He shot a venomous glare at Elias. "Him." Elias stepped forward, shoulders squared. "Your downfall is your own doing. Don't give Miss Bennett credit for your mistakes. She's not the reason you fell. She's simply the reason you couldn't hide it anymore." Logan lunged toward Avery. Security intercepted him instantly. Cameras flashed. Guests whispered. Someone screamed. As Logan was restrained, he shouted, "You think this is over? I'll take everything from you, Avery, everything." Avery stepped closer, so close he could see the strength in her eyes. "You already took everything from me," she said softly. "And I survived." Logan stopped struggling. Because in her voice, he heard the truth. The Avery he broke no longer existed. Security dragged him away, flashes popping like fireworks. Maya whispered, "That's it. That's the moment the world sees who he really is." Avery felt her knees weaken, not from fear, but release. Elias touched her elbow gently. "You did well." She looked up at him, tears threatening but not falling. "It's really happening," she whispered. "He's falling apart." Elias nodded. "And you're finally rising." And for the first time, Avery believed it. The morning after the gala felt unreal, like the quiet before a storm no one could escape. News stations replayed the footage of Logan Pierce being dragged out of the Plaza Hotel. His wild eyes, his slurred threats, his suit ripped at the shoulder. Overnight, he had gone from Wall Street's golden prodigy to a public spectacle. But today would seal his fate. Wardstone Capital and Pierce and Halden had scheduled an emergency joint board meeting, one that would determine the future of both firms and the future of Avery Bennett's life. Avery stood in front of the mirror inside Wardstone's private conference suite. Maya adjusted the collar of her blazer and handed her a small glass of water. "Deep breath," Maya said. "You're steady. You're prepared. And you're right." Avery nodded, though her stomach churned. "I thought the gala was the worst of it." Maya shook her head. "The worst for you has passed. The worst for him is coming." Elias entered the room, carrying a stack of documents. He looked calm, almost serene, the look of a man who had already accepted the outcome. "Avery," he said gently, "you're not here to defend yourself today. You're here to testify, to confirm what we already know." "I'm not afraid to tell the truth," she said softly. "I know," Elias replied. "That's why you're the one he never saw coming." They walked together toward the main boardroom. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. 20 executives from both companies filled the sleek space, tension cracking the air like electricity. At the far end sat Logan, cleaned up, suit pressed, trying desperately to salvage dignity. But the tremor in his hands betrayed him. His lawyer whispered urgently into his ear. But Logan's eyes were fixed on Avery. His glare wasn't the glare of a predator anymore. It was the glare of a man drowning. Elias opened the meeting. "Gentlemen, ladies, we are here to address the allegations of fraud, financial misappropriation, and misconduct perpetrated by Mr. Logan Pierce." The room murmured. Several partners exchanged weary, ashamed looks. Elias nodded toward Avery. "Ms. Bennett, please begin." Avery stood. Her voice, though soft, carried strength that silenced the room. "For years, Logan convinced me I was unstable, incompetent, and incapable of understanding finances. But I spent the last month studying every ledger he manipulated. And what I found wasn't confusion. It was intentional deception." She placed printed records onto the table pages filled with highlighted transactions, forged signatures, doctored reports. Logan stole millions from investors and hid it behind shell companies. He also used my father's name without consent to disguise a fraudulent acquisition. A few board members gasped. One muttered, "Unbelievable." Logan slammed a hand on the table. "This is insane. She's not even a licensed analyst. You're going to believe her over me." Elias raised a calm hand. "We're not relying on her analysis alone." He clicked a remote. Audio filled the room. Logan's voice, dripping with arrogance. "Relax, Sienna. The board won't see the numbers. Avery can barely manage her own mind." And then Sienna's frightened reply. And then Logan incriminating himself again. When the clip ended, the room was dead silent. One board member leaned forward. "Logan, did you coerce an employee into covering your tracks?" Logan's face went pale. "She framed me. This is edited." Elias cut in. "We also have her full live testimony under protection, and the SEC has already received copies." Logan's jaw dropped. "You what?" A pierce of cold dread shot through his eyes. Avery met his gaze for the first time without flinching. "You tried to destroy me," she said quietly. "You tried to take my son. But you forgot one thing, Logan." She stepped closer. "You can't break someone who's already rebuilt themselves." Logan lunged to stand, but security gripped his shoulders. A Wardstone partner cleared his throat. "Effective immediately, Logan Pierce is suspended from all responsibilities pending federal investigation." Another said, "We will be filing for full separation of partnership." Logan froze, eyes vacant. His empire gone. His allies gone. His reputation ashes. And Avery? She stood tall. Elias placed a reassuring hand on her back. "Let's leave," he whispered. "His story ends here. Yours doesn't." Avery nodded. For the first time, she walked out of a room while Logan stayed behind. And he knew he would never rise again. The fall of Logan Pierce did not happen quietly. It happened violently, publicly, and faster than anyone, especially Logan, ever believed possible. Within 24 hours of the board meeting, every financial outlet, every business podcast, every news ticker on Wall Street flashed his name like a warning siren. Logan Pierce under federal investigation. SEC freezes accounts. Insider blower confirms financial misconduct. Avery watched it unfold from the quiet of her Brooklyn apartment, Carter playing with toy cars on the floor beside her. The TV droned softly, reporters dissecting Logan's downfall as if he were some distant meteor burning up in the atmosphere, not the man who once controlled her life like a puppeteer. Marla arrived with takeout and set it on the counter. "It's everywhere," she said, unpacking the containers. "He's trending on every platform. Even my students were talking about him." Avery sighed, rubbing her temples. "I didn't want it to be like this." "No," Marla said, sitting beside her. "You wanted justice. And you got it." Avery stared at the muted screen. Logan's mugshot flashed for 5 seconds, eyes glassy, face gaunt, pride gone. Part of her expected to feel triumphant. Instead, she felt an ache deep inside her chest. "I don't celebrate his pain," she whispered. "I celebrate my freedom." Marla squeezed her hand. "Exactly." But Logan wasn't finished causing damage, not yet. Later that afternoon, Avery's lawyer called. "He's violating his restraining order," the attorney said briskly. "He showed up at your old daycare asking questions about Carter. Staff reported him immediately. Police escorted him out." Avery tensed. "Is he trying to take him?" "No," the lawyer replied. "He's unraveling. This is desperation, not strategy. But I've already filed for an emergency protective extension. You and Carter are safe." Avery thanked her and hung up, heart heavy. Logan Pierce, the man who once commanded boardrooms with a single sentence, was now a ghost clinging to the last scraps of his collapsing life. And the people around him were fleeing fast. Sienna sent Avery a message that evening. "They're coming after him from every direction. He can't run anymore. He won't bother you much longer. Be safe." Avery read it twice before deleting it. By nightfall, she received another call, this time from Elias. "You should see this," he said. "What happened now?" "Turn on Channel C." Avery switched the TV. The newscaster's voice cut through the room. "And late today, the Department of Justice confirmed that Logan Pierce attempted to leave the country through a private airport in New Jersey. He was detained after failing to disclose the frozen status of his accounts." Avery's lips parted. "He tried to run." Elias's voice softened through the phone. "Yes. And he failed." Carter toddled over with a crayon drawing. "Mommy, look. I made a house." Avery smiled and kissed his forehead. "It's beautiful, baby," but her hands trembled. Not with fear, but with the realization that this chapter was closing. That night, after Carter fell asleep, Avery stepped onto her balcony. The city buzzed below, lights flickering like restless stars. For months, she had lived in survival mode, fighting panic, fighting lies, fighting a man who thrived in her silence. Now the silence felt peaceful. Her phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. But this time, she recognized the sender before opening it. Logan. His message was short. "Broken. You ruined me. Are you happy now?" Avery stared at the words, the cold wind whipping her hair. Then she typed back slowly. "No, Logan. You ruined you." She hit send. When she put the phone down, a weight lifted off her chest, a weight she'd carried for years without knowing how heavy it truly was. Inside, her email pinged. A message from Wardstone's HR department. Subject: employment contract. Senior analyst position. Permanent offer. Avery pressed a hand to her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Her life wasn't just recovering. It was rebuilding, rising, becoming something stronger than anything Logan tried to break. And tomorrow, she knew exactly what she needed to do. The morning sun filtered through Avery's curtains like a promise she had waited years to receive. Soft, warm, gentle. She lay still for a moment, listening to Carter's quiet breathing from the next room. No panic twisted her chest. No dread curled around her thoughts. For the first time in a very long time, her home felt safe. Today was her custody ruling. Today, her fate and Carter's would be sealed. But unlike the first time she walked into a courtroom, Avery wasn't shaking. She wasn't fragile. She wasn't the version of herself Logan had tried to sculpt and shatter over and over again. She was whole, and she had earned every piece of that wholeness back. Marla arrived early to help her get ready. "You look strong," Marla said, brushing a hand over Avery's shoulder. Avery smiled softly. "I feel strong." She wore a simple navy dress, hair pulled into a low twist. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. Just quiet confidence. the kind she once thought she'd lost forever. When they arrived at the courthouse, Elias was already waiting. He stood near the steps, hands in his pockets, wearing a dark coat that set him apart from the bustling crowd. The moment he saw her, something shifted in his expression, something warm, steady, unmistakably protective. "Avery," he greeted, offering his hand. She took it, letting his calm soak into her bones. "You don't have to come," she said softly. "I know," he replied, "but I wanted to." Inside, Logan sat with his new attorney, his fourth in 3 weeks. He was thinner, paler, eyes darting nervously around the room. The weight of federal charges, frozen accounts, and public humiliation had carved deep lines across his once polished face. He didn't look powerful anymore. He looked worn, defeated, small. He didn't look at Avery. When the judge entered, everyone rose. After preliminary statements, the judge sifted through the documents, the evidence, the psychological evaluations, and the reports from the previous week's meltdown at the plaza. Finally, she folded her hands and looked at Avery. "Miss Bennett," she said, "you have shown consistency, stability, and remarkable resilience. It is clear you provide a safe, nurturing home for your child." Then she turned to Logan. "Mr. Pierce, the court cannot ignore your ongoing investigation, public misconduct, and attempts to manipulate proceedings. Effective immediately, Miss Bennett is granted full custody of the minor child, Carter Bennett. Your visitation will be supervised until further evaluation." Logan's mouth fell open. This is outrageous. I'm his father." The judge's gaze hardened. "And fatherhood is earned through conduct, not genetics." "Paulu." Avery exhaled, her shoulders trembling not with fear, but with overwhelming relief. Marla squeezed her hand. Elias simply placed a steady palm on her back. It was done. Truly done. After court, Avery stepped outside into the crisp afternoon air. The city felt brighter, as if Manhattan itself had exhaled with her. Elias stood beside her on the courthouse steps. "You fought hard," he said softly. "I had help," she replied. He smiled gently. "You had truth. Help only amplified it." 1. Avery looked out over the street, people moving like currents in a river she once felt drowned by. Now she felt carried by it, alive, present, hopeful. "I got the job offer last night," she said quietly. "Permanent. Senior analyst." Elias's eyes warmed. "You earned that. Every line of it." She hesitated, heart pounding. "Thank you for standing by me." "I didn't stand by you," he said. "I stood with you. And I'd like to keep doing that if you'll let me." Avery's breath caught. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't pressure. It was possibility. She nodded slowly, feeling the first sparks of a new beginning light inside her chest. "I think," she murmured, "I'd like that too." Carter ran up then, throwing his little arms around her legs. Avery lifted him, laughing through tears. She had her son, her freedom, her career, her future. And as they walked together down the courthouse steps with Elias at her side, Avery Bennett stepped into a life no longer built from survival, but from healing, strength, and the love she finally deserved. Trawl, v. T. Contend try. You view KNL done. So the story has come to an end. And yes, you are still here with us. If you've stayed until this moment, it means something in Avery's journey touched a part of your heart, maybe a quiet place inside you that needed to hear this. Her story reminds us of a truth the Stoics often spoke about: the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius believed that every hardship carries the seed of our transformation. Avery didn't rise because life became easier. She rose because she finally understood her worth, reclaimed her voice, and walked forward even when fear tried to pull her back. Life will break us at times. People may betray us, misjudge us, or try to define our value. But just like Avery, we get to decide who we become after the storm. Healing is not loud. Sometimes it's just choosing yourself again and again until your strength becomes undeniable. If this story gave you courage, comfort, or even just a moment of clarity, then don't keep it to yourself. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue creating stories that speak to your heart and remind you of your own power. You deserve healing, you deserve peace, and your comeback story is waiting.